Thank you for joining us today for a special Weather Center Live. I'm meteorologist Chris Warren.
And I'm meteorologist Jen Carfagno. Today we are focusing this next hour of Weather Center Live on the power of water.
And flooding is really one of the most impactful parts of water when we talk about weather and the storms that do bring some very heavy rain, and this is why.
We've got that risk of more flooding. Flood watches remain in effect here for a number of spots until at least noon, and they may be extended longer. We're talking about eastern Oklahoma, parts of Arkansas, down into northern Texas. This is where we got dumped on with very heavy rain overnight. And right now, we do still have some flash flood warnings out there, Denton, Jack, and Wise County in Texas. And I know you're noticing that you got the area in green where the flash flood warning is, but the rain is out. It takes time for those flood waters to recede. The ground is saturated. The water is nowhere to go very quickly. So it's going to take time to see any improvement. Little Rock, Arkansas, another spot we're watching. Flash flood warning for you. Still have some rain in the warned area. Little Rock, North Little Rock, Pine Bluff, all under this warning until 10 o'clock. And when there's a warning, it means that flooding is happening somewhere. I've seen reports of some flooded streets in Little Rock, downtown Little Rock. There's a flooded intersection at Chester. Be careful traveling there. Now, it's been widespread, very heavy rain that happened here over the last 6 hours. Easily 2 to 4 inches of rain across North Texas, parts of central and eastern Oklahoma, and we're going to be getting more. We've got more rain in the forecast. Dallas, Amarillo, Midland, San Angelo, Wichita Falls, Oklahoma City, places that we're going to keep on watching for the risk of additional heavy rain and the chance of flooding because of how saturated the ground is. So why are we stuck in this pattern? Why does it keep flooding? Let's go over to Chris and Dr. Greg Postel. Your weather risk today, we're going to show you the red zone here across parts of West Texas and South Texas. Fort Stockton and Del Rio today in the red zone. In the orange are all places we could see thunderstorms, but here into portions of southwest and south central Texas, this is where we could see storms that turn severe. Today, the Torcon is a 3 on a scale that goes from 0 to 10. And again, we're going to be watching for storms to continue that we're tracking right now. We'll get a break, and then we'll see additional activity popping right through the afternoon and early evening. Central Texas, South Texas, San Antonio, Austin, over towards Del Rio and Fort Stockton, all watching for thunderstorms to develop there. We should be in a break around Dallas and points northward for the rest of the afternoon once we get rid of the activity that we are tracking right now. Chris?
All right. And a big part of flooding is what the rain falls on. What is the ground like? Is it flat? Is it hilly? And what is the soil made of? So what we're going to do right now is an experiment here with Storm Specialist Dr. Greg Postel and Jen Carfagno. We're going to take a look and see what different soil types, how quickly water can go through that. Whether you're going to see that sink in and eventually find its way into streams, or if it's going to run off right to the streams or into the road. So we're going to take a look at sand and then kind of your typical soil in North America.
Yeah, I mean, this is potting soil, but you know, this is great farming soil if this is what you have.
And then finally clay. So you can think of it this way. How easy is it to shovel? Right. Sand you can just pick up with the shovel, no problem. Right. It's rather porous. It can move around easily. And then you have different degrees of that. Sometimes it's hard to even get the shovel into the ground.
There's some stuff mixed in here. We know all soil is not created equal, right? Most soil is a mix of all of these here in some shape or form. But what is the predominant feature of the soil will make a difference as to how much water can move through it, how quickly it can move through it.
Well, let's get to it right now. Dr. Postel, we're going to pour some water in the sand.
Sandy soils here. Now, there's Texas has some sandy soils, the southern plains, but most often this is what you'd find in Florida.
This is what you think of as beachy soil.
Which may be one of the reasons why you do not see a whole lot of flooding in Florida. Guess what? Flooding in Florida. Flooding in Florida because the water just goes all the way through and is absorbed very well by the sand.
Keep going with that, Dr. Postel.
Keep going. All right, let's go.
Because so far you just pretty much saturated the soil. Yep. Now you get more and more rain, and then there you go. Now that the water filled all the spaces between the sand granules, and now you're seeing that come through. So it didn't take very long.
All right, so let's do mine. So this is your potting soil, but this is sort of a great mix of soil. You would think in general this would be a good soil that would be draining moderate, and it's saturating, but not terribly quickly. There we go, starting to go on through. And Chris, your soil.
Now this is clay. And you see as we pull it up.
I mean, it doesn't even go, it doesn't even
getting
saturate.
Through the edges. But if you look at the difference between the three, you have that hard ground that's hard to shovel. I mean, sometimes there's ground that's like pavement or concrete, and it will just stay there and it will flood. As you can see, nothing coming down. Now we're starting to get some drips here on the edges. But on top, you see all of this right here.
Standing water right there.
Standing water, that's your flooding. Soil type makes a huge difference when it comes to flooding.
All right, well, up next, we're going to talk more about the flooding that we've been dealing with. And
all right, this is Weather Center Live, and we're talking about something that we have been seeing on the positive side of all of this rain and flooding.
We're filling up the reservoirs. We're in a long-term drought in Texas, and this rainfall has really been great to fill up, not all of them, but a lot of the lakes and reservoirs. You look at Grapevine Lake in Texas. Right now, it's at 161% of capacity. 6 months ago, it was barely over 50%.
Just a little bit more than half. Now you're
progress.
well over. And making progress as well. Texoma right here, you can see right along Texas and Oklahoma, right along the border. Well above where we were 6 months ago.
Lake Ray Hubbard, also significant improvement, 58% at capacity 6 months ago. Now we're at 100%. Now it's not everywhere. We have to make sure we're fair with our assessment. Lake Arrowhead, which is near the Wichita Falls area, still only at 50%. It's improved since the 19%, but can't say the drought is over here because we are still looking at reduced capacity.
And it really does, matter where that rain falls. Which side of the city, how close to the reservoir, drainage basin, the whole deal.
What part of the basin it falls into. So we do have this, though, storming pattern continuing with more rain to come for the southern plains. And, it seems like there's no end in sight.
Yeah, more rounds of rain, a couple more in just the next 5 days. It's going to trigger some more concerns of flooding. And joining us live now via Skype is Greg Waller, Service Coordination Hydrologist at the West Gulf River Forecast Center. Greg, first off, thank you very much for joining us. And can you explain to our viewers what it is that you do when it comes to forecasting?
We're talking about rainfall reaching historic levels for the month of May. Thanks for staying with us here on Weather Center Live. I'm meteorologist Jen Carfagno.
And I'm meteorologist Chris Warren. The power of water, you saw it there with that video, and all of the damage it can do and the trouble people can find themselves in because of that heavy rain, which leads to flooding.
That's right, flooding and thunders. Yesterday we certainly had a lot of reports of flooding, but we also had those tornado reports, more than 24. And so for today, we're looking at an area now south of where the issues were yesterday with tornadoes. We're talking about Fort Stockton down towards Del Rio. That's in the red zone today. This is where we could see some hail, some damaging winds, and we have that tornado risk as well. Today on the Torcon, it is a 3. The Torcon goes from 0 to 10. So 3 out of 10 risk of tornadoes forming here in southwest and south central Texas. We're going to see thunderstorms through that area, especially into the afternoon and evening. Right now, and then taking into the next couple of hours, we're going to see the showers up across North Texas, Arkansas, parts of Louisiana. But later this afternoon and evening, you can see we'll get storms to form, Abilene and point south, Austin and point south, San Antonio and point south as well. So those will be the areas that we're watching. We've got a busy trend for us coming our way for San Antonio. We're in somewhat of a break now, but I know you can feel if you step outside how warm and humid it is, and it is going to be a kind of day that leads to the risk of thunderstorms and possible severe weather. So we're going to have that risk of heavy rain too, and we take it into after the dinner hour, about 7, 8 o'clock tonight. That's when we're likely to see the hit or miss thunderstorms that could bring severe weather. But then also, again, we got to watch that heavy rain, because anything that forms across this area, Chris, just has the potential to drop a lot of rainfall. Now we're talking about how dangerous floodwaters are, and they are, but let's talk about how damaging they are too, and how much money it can cost to deal with floodwaters. There's a great tool from floodsmart.gov that lets us interact and take a general house. Let's use a good example of a house, maybe like a 2,000 square foot house, and show you how much it will cost if you get flooding inside.
Yeah, the estimation of what flooding would cost, all of the different elements, whether it's cleaning, replacing doors and trim, and we're also going to show you right here the floodwaters going up in a home to give you perspective of what's going on and all of the different costs that go into it. So we're looking here at about an inch of rain, or inch of flooding, I should say. You're looking at almost $21,000 with estimated total losses.
And this is like a 2,000 square foot house. Think your 2-story, 4-bedroom kind of house. You're going to have to do a lot of work, right? But it gets much worse. That's just an inch of water. Now let's add up to 6 inches of water. We're up to nearly $40,000.
And again, it's your personal items, which that can be avoided if you plan ahead.
Electronics, your furniture, your dining room table, your bedroom furniture. I mean, anything on the first floor.
And it showed, some kitchen appliances. If you think about it, you may store your kitchen items on the lower.
Look at the wood floors. We all like the wood floors in our homes these days. If those get damaged, or if your carpet gets damaged, you have to replace that. That's a $15,000, $16,000 fix.
It adds up in a hurry. So say we're talking about big time flooding, river flooding, something we don't see very often, but when you do, it really adds up.
Now we're talking more than $50,000. Again, this is a foot of floodwaters in your home, and this isn't a situation that happens all the time, but it can happen. It's very expensive, and it's a situation where you just almost have a total loss in some cases of everything on that first floor.
Yeah, you're talking about appliances now, your washer and your dryer, electronics potentially, depending on where they are, the cords, think about everything that's plugged in, up to the outlets.
Yeah, and we worry about this because we have had the situation with batch of rain after wave of rain week after week, and the ground is very saturated. The rivers and streams are running very full. Flooding is going to happen pretty easily. I mean, look at all this rain in Fort Smith. Now, yesterday we're looking at the places that are about to set all-time May monthly rainfall records. And Fort Smith, you were 9 on the list here. You were the 9th wettest May on record. As of this morning, you have now your number 1 wettest May on record.
Getting close to 14 inches of rain so far up to this point in May.
Oklahoma City, we're coming close. So we take a look at where we are right now. We're number 4 on the list here. We've had 13.88 inches of rain. To get to not just our all-time wettest May, but our all-time wettest month on record, we need very little more. 14.66. June 1989 would be the month to beat. And, it seems like we're going to do that, Chris, right?
Yeah, in Lubbock, so far, a little bit more than 7 inches. The record is just about 13 inches, and it's not going to take a lot more because we've seen how much rain can come down with some of these storms. So getting close here. The
pattern continues to be wet, and so, of course, the concern is that with any of those storms, we've had a tremendous amount of rain. Well, up next, we've got the life cycle of it, but the weather made me do it, I think, is actually pretty interesting because people are affected by the weather. And pressure changes, temperature changes.
And I believe that you could have and probably have used that as an excuse in the past.
Yeah, the weather made me do it. The weather's making me crazy. We've all said that. Okay. But let's look at the weather making folks crazy here in Texas, where we are sick of the rain. Chris, can you believe, we prayed for rain for 4 years, and now it's like, when will it end?
It's about the pattern, too. So right here, this is the Gulf of Mexico. And what do you know about the Gulf of Mexico? You go down there, you put your feet in. You
like that? For swimming.
It's warm because it's so warm, but you get a lot of that moisture into the air, and then when it gets transported up to areas that tend to be dry, that's when you have the big moisture source there for some heavy rain, and it also helps fuel the storms.
But there's also been a Pacific influence, too. I have to say, the jet stream kind of bringing that in at the mid to upper levels. There have been disturbances within that jet stream and the pattern that is set up with it that help to trigger the showers and storms.
Kind of stirring the spot, the pot there, if we're making some bread here, and the bread ends up being the thunderstorms, and you end up with some serious situations going on with the flooding and the potential for tornadoes.
All right, so where everything comes together is where we will watch for severe weather. Getting into the holiday weekend, Friday, Saturday. Friday people hit the road. Saturday, they're trying to get to their barbecues, to their family events. Same thing on Sunday. And you can see where we've got that red zone now all the way up in through Texas, Oklahoma, up into Missouri, watching for hail, damaging winds, and there is the risk for tornadoes too. So this is a forecast you need to make sure you keep an eye on and have a way to get warnings.
Day after day of thunderstorms in Dallas.
All right, so it is Tornado Week on the Weather Channel, and Jim Cantore takes you inside a developing tornado from the safe confines of the Weather Channel lab.